Would all the blondes please rise and leave the room? You are not allowed to hear my speech. Wait, come back. You don't really have to leave. How are you feeling right now? Are you feeling left out, judged, or even discriminated? Imagine being told this on a daily basis, that you can't sit here or you can't talk there just because you are blonde. Welcome, teachers, judges, and peers. America is a melting pot. It is made up of people from all around the world, every religion, nationality, and gender. The Declaration of Independence states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Although this is evidence that our founding fathers believed we could be living in peace and unison, at that time, many people were being discriminated against. But in 1964, the Civil Rights Act outlawed discrimination of race, color, religion, gender, and national origin. Do you know whom you have to thank for that? There are many people leading up to achieving the Civil Rights Act. However, one event had a profound impact on this change in history. On August 28, 1963, in Washington, D.C., 250,000 people gathered to march to the Lincoln Memorial and listen to a powerful speech that was given by Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. His "I Have a Dream" speech inspired people of all ages and races. In King's speech, he spoke of many dreams for our future, one of them being, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they'll not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." Dr. King's speech was so powerful, it gave Americans a deeper understanding of what it means to have equal rights. Shortly after Martin Luther King's speech, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was passed. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was just the beginning of a revolution. Dr. Martin Luther King's courage and peaceful way for standing up for what he believed in set an example for others to follow. Over time, more laws were passed that legalized many forms of discrimination. Now, some of you may be wondering, how does this act affect her? She's just a typical American teenager. First and foremost, I'm an American, seeking out the American dream of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This means I have the freedom of choice to seek out the things that fulfill my life and make me happy. Thanks to Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Act, I can do all of these things without being discriminated against. For example, being a girl does not hold me back from holding an office position on my school's student council or playing sports. Also, I am able to be a member of the Fellowship of Christian Students, a religious-based club at my school. Additionally, this act allows me to be whatever I want, whether it be an architect, a producer, or an engineer, regardless of my gender. Most importantly, this has allowed me to be touched by so many people, not because of what they look like, but because of their amazing character. Think of all the people you may have never known if this change in history had not been made. Remember when I singled out all the blondes? This scenario may have given you a brief feeling of being uncomfortable or put on the spot, but I hope it allows you to pause for a moment to realize Dr. King's most important lesson as an American. Because we are created equal, we should love and respect each other for who we are, not what we look like or believe in. Doing this will allow us to achieve the American dream. Thank you.
Judges, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world filled with choices, especially in our own country. We can be Republican or Democrat, Catholic or Muslim. We can support the new congressional bill, or we can hate the Affordable Care Act. We can encourage a new spending budget, or we can fight for lower taxes. Whatever our opinion, what unites our choices is our love for our country, a will for a better tomorrow, and a hope for the safety of our fellow Americans. Throughout the history of this great country, we see examples of American will and power, passion and perseverance. Regardless of one's point of view, participation in the process is the key. Participation is patriotism. A date which will live in infamy, said President Franklin Roosevelt of an event that demonstrated America's willingness to voluntarily participate. The attack on Pearl Harbor, the deadly Japanese bombing that led us into the horrific World War II, showed our country's love for its fellow citizens. The bombing destroyed 2 destroyers, 188 aircraft, and killed 2,403 men, women, and children stationed at the naval base. When the news of the attack reached Washington, D.C., it traveled across the country in a flash flood, leaving emotions of anger, sadness, and revenge in its wake. All wants for neutrality vanished, replaced with an immovable will to avenge our fallen comrades. America stood as one, and we were dangerous. Men eagerly signed up for the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. No selective service necessary. Women replaced their husbands in the factory, supplying them with tanks, planes, and guns. Children scoured the streets for scrap metal, old rubber tires, anything to help support their fathers in the war field. There were no conflicting opinions, no person feeling that the war actions were not needed. Every man, woman, and child stood united in cause, and each played an essential role in stopping the terrible Holocaust. Their participation saved lives. We can all agree that life is precious. We strive each and every day to make it happy and wonderful and hope and help others to do the same. But there are those so loyal to their country and so unselfish for their comrades that on a day of death, they would knowingly sacrifice themselves for another, even another they do not know. An example of such a moment can be found in the actions of many on September 11th, 2001. We all know the story. 2,996 men, women, and children died in the collapsed Twin Towers and Pentagon. Selfless firefighters and brave police officers risked their lives to find survivors. Others sacrificed themselves to allow another to survive. And these remarkable public service officers were not the only ones to make a sacrifice that terrible day. The innocent passengers aboard United Airlines Flight 93 voluntarily gave their lives to their country to overcome the terrorists flying their plane into Washington, D.C. The plane eventually crashed in a Pennsylvania field, killing all the passengers who knowingly chose to change the course of the United States of America with a vote aboard a flying weapon. America's participation is not limited to times of revenge or sadness. We as a people participate in the process to make America a better place. Some challenge the norms, push the limits, and take risks. There are many examples of great people taking risks, such as Martin Luther King and our great founding fathers in creating this great country. If not for their willingness to participate in the process, we would not have our America today. Average Americans, like you and me, can also change America for the greater good through active participation in the process. Each moment of participation may only result in small changes, but these small changes are important and act to improve each and every part of America. What makes America so great is its people who take initiative, make sacrifices, and participate. Every day we get up and work hard to keep America in its state of greatness. It is not mandatory for us to get up every day, nor is it to find a better way to live here in America, but our actions have the power to change America. Our participation defines our patriotism. Thank you for this opportunity.
Imagine, it's 1966, the second year of the Vietnam War, and there you are in the trenches. Bullets grazing your hair, the sound of gunfire canceling out the sound of your own thoughts, your fellow soldiers and friends dropping dead feet away from you. And all of this for the protection of your country. This is patriotism. Doing something its outcome is totally unpredictable for the well-being of your country. In the 1960s, a famous songwriter by the name of Jack Jones wrote a song entitled The Impossible Dream. It reads, "To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go. I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. To run where the brave dare not go requires me to take opportunities given, like others have been doing in America's history, such as the men who fought in the Vietnam War, the people who made space travel possible, and events that have and are yet to happen in my own life. 1966 began the second year of the Vietnam War, thus beginning another year of worry for American citizens. But lucky for them, they were in good hands. The men who fought for our safety saw the opportunity to do a deed for their country and took it. And those who died in battle didn't die so America could be a safe place, but so America could be a great place. They gave their life for your freedom. Imagine if they didn't. Where would we be? Would we still be able to go to school, to go to work, to provide for our families? Thankfully, because of the men who fought and the men fighting, we can. They worked their tails off so you don't have to. They saw the opportunity and took it. They served our country and worked for our freedom. They ran where the brave dare not go. The Vietnam War, although very important, wasn't the only major event happening at the time. In 1961, John F. Kennedy announced the plan to put a man on the moon, and just like that, the race was on. At first it seemed crazy, but what seemed like a wild thought would turn out to be one of the biggest successes in American history. This was the greatest advance in technology in years, and one of the most memorable things to happen at the time. Let's go back to Jack Jones' famous quote, "To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go. I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest." This space shuttle mission was the impossible dream. And with a little creativity and a lot of imagination, the impossible became possible. Maybe that's all we need. A little creativity and a lot of imagination. Your imagination. Take the opportunity. Use your mind. Become a true American. Landing on the moon not only opened the eyes of millions, but opened my eyes as well. I look back on the history of America, our greatest wins, our courageous acts of patriotism, the chances we reached out and took. The Vietnam War, the lunar landing, and countless other major events have inspired me to take opportunities given. Like many others, I enjoy playing sports. I play football and engage on others on the side. But if I didn't have the chance to play sports, well, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Not only do we have the freedom to enjoy our hobbies, we have the right to a great education. But the opportunities don't stop when you get to school. Every day when my classmates and I walk through that familiar classroom door, the opportunities just expand even further. We have the chance to learn music, to learn art, to learn so many other things that will help mold our future, that will help mold the country's future. And with the opportunity to learn comes the opportunity to decide your career. Unlike in some places where you don't even get a say in what you do, in America, we have the right to choice. And with that, there are so many great life and job opportunities, but only if you decide to take them. As you can now see, your future is the definition of your past, the choices you've made, and the opportunities you've taken to get there. America is a nation built on opportunity. From the Vietnam War, space expedition, even my life and yours. They all stand on a foundation built of opportunity. Let's go back to Jack Jones' famous song one more time. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go. I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, my heart will lay peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. Every opportunity is a building block for your country. So, I leave you with this. What will you build?
Imagine being judged, called names, and isolated, and all because of your skin color. You would often find yourself wondering, when will it all stop? Do you ever fear something bad is going to come out of a choice you made? Well, imagine being one child out of thousands, marching, singing, and hoping for the end of segregation, only to be shot down, literally. Welcome teachers, judges, parents, and fellow contestants. My name is Kayla Stillman. The Children's March of 1963 in Birmingham, Alabama, and the people involved, DJ Shelley Stewart, Martin Luther King Jr., and the children demonstrators have greatly influenced my life today. Shelley Stewart experienced the cruel treatment towards blacks himself and wanted to see it end. He became the DJ for WEDR Radio, where he was then named Shelley the Playboy. Shelley supported the Children's March and wanted to see it. Shelley supported the Children's March. So on air, he said, "Kids, there's going to be a party at the park. Bring your toothbrushes because lunch will be served." What Shelley meant by this was that most protesters would be jailed. This was a signal for the children to leave school to protest. Shelley taught me to not let others' actions bring me down. I've been told rude things, called harsh names, and gone through rough times, just like Shelley. But what I've learned through this is to keep my head high and keep on going. Martin Luther King Jr. is another person who did just that. Martin Luther King Jr. was a regular human with a dream for the end of segregation. In 1954, Martin Luther King Jr. became the pastor for Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. He led African Americans not only as a pastor, but as an activist. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wanted to help end the segregation in Birmingham, Alabama. So he held a meeting at a church and said, "If the children participate in this demonstration, this peaceful demonstration, then all of America will see that even children understand the difference between right and wrong, and the children want the best possible education." Because he led the demonstrations, Martin Luther King Jr. was then jailed. While doing time, he continued to fight for the end of segregation. How? He wrote his famous letter from a Birmingham jail. And after that, on August 28th, he gave his I Have a Dream speech in Washington, D.C. Martin Luther King Jr. taught me to follow my dreams. I've always wanted to be an actor, and I've chased my dreams through all obstacles to get to where I am today. In 1963, African American children listened to Dr. King and wanted to march whether their parents said it was okay or not. As soon as they heard their cue on Thursday, May 2nd, children as young as 6 years old began to march to the 16th Street Baptist Church, where Bull Connor and many other officers were waiting for them. By the end of the first day, hundreds of kids were arrested. The second day, Bull Connor ordered for police dogs to be sent out and for fire hoses to be turned on at full blast. Now imagine being a child marching peacefully on the streets when suddenly a fire hose is turned on you, sweeping you off your feet, or maybe a police dog jumping on you and beginning to attack you. These children, they were just trying to help change our country. And by trying to do so, they were sent to prisons. And once those were full, they were imprisoned on bare grounds where they had to sleep outside. Finally, in 1964, all laws enforcing segregation were put to an end. The children demonstrators taught me to be brave enough to stand up for what's right. When I was in Wizard of Oz, one of my fellow actors had a stutter. One time backstage, a girl started making fun of him, and I didn't like that, so I stood up for this kid because he didn't deserve to be treated badly just because he was different. Abraham Lincoln once said, 407 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this nation, this continent, a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. When he said this, he meant all races, not just whites. You're all probably wondering what this speech has to do with patriotism. The definition of patriotism is the love for your country and the willingness to sacrifice for it. Now, I don't know about you, but I think DJ Shelley Stewart, Martin Luther King Jr., and the children demonstrators showed true acts of patriotism. They sacrificed themselves so the citizens of our country could be treated fairly. DJ Shelley Stewart, Martin Luther King Jr., and the children demonstrators helped influence my life today to help me keep my head high, follow my dreams, and be courageous. Today, children of all races play together. No segregation in bathrooms, restaurants, bars, or even at drinking fountains. No more protesting for equal rights, just fairness all around. Sure, the world isn't perfect and there'll be feuds here and there, but not as many as there once were. Thank you.
The The cost of freedom is always high, but Americans always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, the path of surrender or submission. John F. Kennedy. Welcome parents, teachers, judges, fellow contestants. The cost of freedom may be what we treasure most, our very lives even, but our history shows that we'll do whatever it takes to keep our freedom. No matter how terrible the situation is or how fearsome the enemy is, we have always been able to meet the call to duty. Citizens living in the 13 colonies wanted to have freedom, like participating in making the law. But the British wanted the colonists to accept a king and his rule, so we went to war with them. We knew we had to win, or else we have to sacrifice more than just our freedom to vote on laws. At this time, we didn't have an official army yet, so we had our own untrained civilians fight for us. These patriots were willing to die in battle for us. Also, others sacrificed their possessions to help the army. The war lasted 8 years, but as a result, we finally had freedom from the British. Another defining moment in American history was World War II. Tremendous sacrifices were required. Many civilians contributed great quantities of food, clothes, scrap metal, and gasoline. Also, millions of people left their farms, homes, and jobs to work in factories building ships, planes, and weapons. With these efforts, we were able to overwhelm our enemies and win the war. Without as many planes or weapons, it would have made it very difficult to win. Recently, we experienced a tragedy that once again exhibited that Americans will pay the ultimate price for freedom. On 9/11, 4 planes crashed, 2 into the World Trade Center, 1 at the Pentagon, and the last one crashed in an empty field in Pennsylvania. This was coordinated by a terrorist group called Al-Qaeda. The plane that crashed in Pennsylvania was taken back over by the passengers and crashed on purpose. That took real courage and sacrifice. They knew they were going to die. So rather than letting the terrorist group kill even more people, they decided to take the plane down. After the incident, communities all over America helped out. Some cleaned up the mess after the disaster, and also others donated goods to others who needed it. Even though 9/11 was so terrible, it brought us together to show that we're still a powerful nation. Following the events of 9/11, George W. Bush said, "Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but it cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shatter steel, but it cannot dent the steel of American resolve." By learning from the history of our great nation, we can learn about the American resolve that George W. Bush talked about and make the sacrifices needed to keep this country free and strong. I challenge each of you to prepare yourself to make the sacrifices needed to keep your country alive. Thank you.
Hello and welcome, fellow Americans. I thank you for finding the time in your tightly packed schedules to come here, not necessarily to watch my speech, but to watch my speech and my fellow contestants' speeches. Now, you may not be here to see who gets crowned victor. You may be here just because you have a family member in the contestant side. Or you may just be here because you took a wrong turn in the parking lot. But today, I stand before you to craft an essential message. America is a tune. It must be sung together. I quote General Stanley Lee. My personal interpretation of this quote is that in order for America to be strong, we must all work together as one. Our country is only as strong as our national unity and our willingness to make the decisions that may not best benefit us, but best benefit our country. Every day, our national unity is threatened by racism and segregation. What happened to all men are created equal? No matter height, weight, race, religion, or gender, we are all humans. America is the great melting pot of the world, a place where immigrants come to start new lives for themselves, give better opportunities to their children and families. How is it that our country is so technologically advanced we put a man on the moon, but we can't live up to the words in our nation's Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal? We need to follow the shining examples set for us by the men and women of our nation's armed forces, who have learned to come together. They may not like each other, but they come together to fight the common enemy so that you can be free. They don't care what the person fighting alongside them looks like, what religion they practice, or even what gender they are. They know that that person is putting their life on the line just as much as they are. Some parts of our great nation may currently live and work in diversity, but that does not mean that we can turn a blind eye on our nation's problems. I know that this is not the racism and segregation of my grandparents' day. Yet, 21st century segregation still exists, overtly in our school systems, communities, and prisons. It also premates our society in ways we may not notice or understand. Statistics show that 38% of African Americans, 43% of Latinos went to schools where only 10% of their peers were white. How is our nation supposed to learn how to come together and work together in symphony when we don't hang out with the people that we may not like? Now, my words as I stand before you here today may be meaningful. They may change the way you look at things, or they may go in one ear and out the other. But today I ask you, in this hour, in these minutes, the words of my speech, are you going to go out there today and try and change America? Because I know I am. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Before I continue, I would like to ask you to think about the following quote. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless tempest refuse, tossed to me. I'll lift my lamp beside the golden door. Emma Lazarus. The previous quote had inspired me to not only think, but also look into one of the biggest nationwide issues known as immigration. We've all found ourselves hearing or seeing about it, from television and radio to the people close to us, such as classmates and friends, even neighbors. It affects us, and especially our opinions, whether we agree or disagree over it. Robert F. Kennedy once said, "Our faith in immigration reflects our attitude towards the American dream. We have always believed it possible for men and women who start at the bottom to rise as far as the talent and energy allow. Neither race nor place of birth should affect their chances." Most of us have ancestors who were once immigrants. They came from different parts of the world and were full of different cultures and beliefs. But if you look at it, they all look for the same thing: a better future and a greater tomorrow. As George W. Bush once said, nearly all Americans have ancestors who braved the oceans, liberty-loving risk-takers in search of an ideal. The largest voluntary migrations in recorded history. Immigration is not just the link to America's past, it's also the bridge to America's future. So if you really look at it, we're all human. And no color of skin, place of birth, or race should make us different. In conclusion, we're all different. We may have different races or beliefs or cultures, but as I mentioned before, we're all human. And we only look for a way to create a better legacy that starts with the American ideal. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a nice day.
Have you ever asked yourselves why America is such an amazing place? It is because of our equality, individuality, freedoms, independence, and patriotism. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mia Johnson. Theodore Roosevelt understood why America is great when he stated, quote, "I am an American, free-born and free-bred, where I acknowledge no man as my superior, except for his own worth, or as my inferior, except for his own demerit," end quote. We all have equality, but what does equality mean? Equality means that we were made equal. But to me, equality means we were made equal under the law. No man, woman, or child is an exception. Equality is not about outranking another, but there are one rank, one hand, one nation. The time for individuality no longer belongs to the past. We embrace it today. We must not be afraid because we rely too much on our governments, corporations, powerful organizations, or on any influence outside of ourselves. But we are too afraid to stand up against corporations that could be jeopardizing aspects of our lives, jobs, and security. Individuality in America could also mean we could be different races, colors, personalities, and we can like different things. But this is okay, because in America, you can be different but still be treated equal. Next, our freedoms. We have so many rights and freedoms. We have the freedom of speech, the freedom of press, the freedom of petition, the freedom of assembly, and we even have the freedom of religion. For example, my religion is that I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You guys understand that as being Mormon, and I have my beliefs, but would that give me any less or more rights than, say, a Jew or an atheist? No. Foreigners come to our country because we have these rights and freedoms other places just don't have. They want to live the American dream that you can live your life the way you want to live it. For example, when Hitler was the dictator of Germany, he killed Jews for what they believed in. He did not believe they belonged in his society because they were different. They didn't have the chance to make their own choices, but we do. And this may be scary and different than what we're comfortable with or even accepted, but it ingrains in who we are as a nation. Which brings me to my next topic, independence. On July 4th, 1776, our nation was gloriously born. The Declaration of Independence is the usual name of a document adopted by Congress on July 4th, 1776. This announced that the 13 colonies were now 13 brand new American states. What this meant for America was that we were now our own nation. We were not owned by some other country or continent. We were small, but we were strong, and we've only grown since then. Yes, people still go to war for our independence, but don't you see, with our whole nation working together as one, no one has been able to take away our independence. Which brings me to my final topic, U.S. patriotism. Our patriotism is about sharing, expressing, and enjoying the love and pride of the United States of America in a non-political environment with the mission to foster the pride of Americans. Our soldiers are a great example. They show patriotism every single day in their lives. They go fight and sometimes die for our country, but they would not go to war if they did not love our country and everything that comes with it. So in conclusion, Theodore Roosevelt's quote, "I am an American, free-born and free-bred, where I acknowledge no man as my superior, except for his own worth, or as my inferior, except for his own demerit," states why America is such an amazing place.
What do you first think of when you hear the word patriotic? I think of the people who have helped our country grow beautifully throughout history. Welcome, fellow contestants, judges, and parents. My name is McKenzie Adams. Today I would like to talk about a quote that reminds me of patriotism and to make you realize that you should be and could be a patriot too. George W. Bush, our 43rd president, once said, "Hundreds of thousands of American servicemen and women are deployed across the country in a world on terror. By bringing hope to the oppressed and delivering justice to the violent, they are making America more secure." This quote made me think of patriotism in a new way. What President Bush said made me think how important soldiers are and how hard they work to keep our tomorrow safe, just like they were yesterday. See, what soldiers fight for now won't just affect us today, it will affect us forever. During the Civil War, we had soldiers fighting all the time. Even though that was 150 years ago, that war still matters. And in 150 years from today, it will still affect us. Those men fought to change America. That makes them patriots. Some of my friends I wouldn't even know because they'd be forced into being a slave for a white man. So no matter what happened, what seems like forever ago still affects us today, tomorrow, and forever. By bringing hope to the oppressed, they changed America forever. Now you might be thinking, sure, soldiers are patriots, but how am I? You, yes you are a patriot because you support the troops and you say the Pledge of Allegiance every day to thank them. You don't have to fight in a war to be a patriot. Start by simply saying the pledge every day. Honor those who do fight. That's being a patriot. I know you might be thinking that's small. Well, it's not. It shows you love your country and you're proud to be an American. Lots of stores will ask if you want to donate $1 or a candy bar to the troops. That's another great start. Servicemen and women don't have access to simple things like candy when they are in another war in another country. Sometimes they just want a little taste of home. Donating money to the troops will do more than you think. It will bring them new shoes, which aren't easy to get overseas, and so many other things. Just by making donations and saying the Pledge of Allegiance, you will be a patriot because of your support. There are many key parts to President Bush's statement. He said, the soldiers are bringing hope to the oppressed. What he means by that is those who have it the worst will be full of hope to know someone cares. The citizens of America who were a different skin color weren't considered citizens during the Civil War. Slaves were tired of being forced to work with no pay and barely enough food to live. Soldiers of the North were fighting to show they cared. Soldiers are making our country a more peaceful, secure place to live. We need to show them a little things. Bush said hundreds of thousands. There are many people fighting in the U.S. Army, Navy, etc. And they all serve for one reason, because they love their country and they want to make it better than it already is. Being a patriot means to me you are standing up for your country and your beliefs, and you show support for those who do the same. Soldiers are an amazing example of a patriot, but you do not have to be a soldier to be patriotic. Just always remember to love your country and your beliefs. In conclusion, George W. Bush's quote, hundreds of thousands of American servicemen and women are deployed across the country in a world on terror. By bringing hope to the oppressed and delivering justice to the violent, they are making America more secure. Is what explains to me who and what is a patriot. So, my fellow Americans, ask yourself, do you have what it takes to be an American patriot? Thank you.
Good day, parents, special guests, judges, and fellow contestants. America is a tune. It must be sung together. By Gerald Stanley Lee. This quote has more meaning than meets the eye. I chose this quote partially because I enjoy music. Music has the power to heal the soul, lighten the spirit, and teach. The lyrics attached to your heart. America is a tune. The word tune calls to mind words such as music, harmony, melody, story, and balance. Musical pieces are performed by symphonies, orchestras, marching bands, rock bands, quartets, and soloists. The combination of flute, harp, violin, drums, and saxophones all play a different part in creating a masterpiece. Each instrument's sound is important to the beautiful harmony. Just as each musical instrument contributes to the masterpiece, we as different people each play a role in the symphony, which is America. Turn on the news today and you will hear stories of riots in the streets, hate, crime, and abuse. People hurt and blame each other simply because they are different. Some people have a different skin color, some have a different language, and others have too much or too little money. These differences tear us apart and in turn tear America apart. Some say that English should be the only language that is spoken in America. In truth, there are a variety of languages spoken in America. To name a few, Spanish, German, French, Japanese, and Chinese. In World War II, the Germans were intercepting and decoding our messages to the troops. The United States called in Native American Navajo men to assist. These men, known today as Navajo Code Talkers. They created an unbreakable communication tool that used their native language. This helped us win the war. In America, we are a rainbow of skin colors. In the past and even today, people judge others based on the color of their skin. Martin Luther King Jr. wanted his children to live in America where they were not judged by the color of their skin, but by their character. In the movie The Lion King 3, Simba's Pride, there are two rival prides of lions. The one pride wants to destroy the other because they look different. In one final battle, the daughter opens her father's eyes by saying, "Look at them. They are us. What differences do you see?" That same thing applies to America. We all think that just because someone else is a different race, that they're entirely different from us. As the daughter says, "What do you see that is different?" We should see nothing that is different. They look like us, they breathe like us, and they are human just like us. They are us. So in turn, I challenge you not to be prejudiced of others before you know anything about them. America is a land of opportunity. Just because a person is born poor doesn't mean they'll stay poor their entire life. Hard work is the path to greatness and success. You too can achieve success and earn a lot of money. However, if you are always envying what others have, you will have a tough life. Instead of envying your neighbor's new Ferrari, you could go out and make money to afford a new Ferrari. We shouldn't always be making people feel less than because we have more or less than them. It must be sung together. That means that we, as Americans, need each other. We all balance each other out. So if someone breaks away, the balance will be out of whack and we will all fall. So no matter your language, race, and the money you have, we still need each other. We are like the instruments. Our differences help us create the masterpiece. No matter if we are bass or flute, we all matter in the final piece. We all must sing together in harmony to create the tune that is the United States of America. Thank you for your time.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We say this pledge every day in school, but do we know why or what it means? Well, when you break it down, it's just a fancy way of promising yourself to our country. Lately, some people in the U.S. have been questioning whether we should continue to say the pledge in school or not. I believe we must keep saying the pledge because it's a form of patriotism, it's a part of our heritage, and it's a reminder of a special promise we've made to our country. First off, everyone is always saying how American citizens should be more patriotic, and saying the pledge is a simple way of doing that. The definition of patriotism is one's love, support, devotion, and loyalty of one's country. And saying the pledge is promising your loyalty to our nation. So by saying the pledge, you're basically stating your patriotism for all to hear. We say the pledge in school, at some sporting events, and at several other social gatherings. It's said that we say it in school to instill a sense of patriotism among the students. And I assume that's why we say it anywhere else too, to remind us of our unique unity. Saying the pledge can increase patriotism in America. Also, saying the pledge in school now is an old tradition that America has carried for more than 100 years. The pledge was written in August 1892, then published a month later. A month after that, by October 12th, more than 12 million students were saying the pledge in school. And we've said it ever since that day. Our parents, our grandparents, even our great-grandparents said it, just like us. For years, our soldiers have been fighting, dying for our country. They fought for our freedom and have continued to fight to maintain our liberty. Saying the pledge can be our way of thanking them. It has been our way of thanking them for several years now. And if we cut off this form of appreciation, it'd be like pretending they've done a lot less than they actually have. Saying the pledge in America should be a tradition that we continue on forever. Lastly, saying the pledge is not only about promising yourself to this country, but also about being willing to keep that promise. By saying the pledge, you're committing yourself to the USA forever. I pledge allegiance to the flag is saying, I promise to be on America's team. And by saying those 6 small words, you are now entitled of being all for this nation. Personally, I do need to be reminded that I agree to appreciate and support this country all the time. And it's okay if you need a small reminder. I think everyone might need one every once in a while. There is a soldier, Travis Mills, who accidentally set off a series of explosives. He thought that that was the end for him. He even told one of his fellow soldiers to say goodbye to his wife and daughter for him. But he woke up from a coma 4 days later on his birthday. He woke up without any limbs. He and his family were then chosen to deliver the Pledge of Allegiance at the Dallas Veterans Day Parade. But why? Because it's his way of showing his patriotism without serving anymore. It's his way of carrying on his heritage, and it's his way of keeping his promise to his nation. Ever since I started this speech, I've glanced around the room to see how some of my fellow classmates recite the pledge each morning. Most of them just flop their hands onto their heart and continue to say the words mindlessly. Some of them even have other conversations or completely ignore the moment of silence that follows. And I'll be the first to admit that I used to be one of these students. But now I say it the way we're supposed to. And I hope that after hearing this, that you say it the way we're supposed to too. I hope that you do more than mumble the words. I want you to understand what you're saying, but more importantly, mean it. Thank you.
Have you ever wondered how we became such a glorious and prosperous nation? Good morning, my fellow Americans. My name is Marco Antonio Mondragon Gonzalez, and I'm here to tell you about the men, women, and children who basically built this country from the ground up. Since the 18th century, the U.S. has been an industrial powerhouse and has shown finesse and innovation. But how? How have we achieved these prestigious titles? The answer is immigrants. These wonderful men and women brought our country to the forefront of industrialization across the globe. But it's time to get to the facts here, and for this, we have to go back in time. It all started in the late 1800s. His operations went from a few steel mills in Pittsburgh to the steel that shaped cities like New York. 2 words, Andrew Carnegie, a Scottish immigrant who basically built our country. Another great immigrant who changed the U.S. is Nikola Tesla, who gave us the idea of safe electricity. But I'm not here to give you a history lesson, so let's shift gears, shall we? You're probably wondering, why would they want to come here, to the U.S.? Well, let me answer that for you. The United States is one of the few free religious countries. Most people don't see this, but it's an important factor in our modern society. This is a very hard privilege to obtain. Immigrants won't be persecuted or discriminated simply because you believe otherwise. And that's what immigrants love about this country. That's what I love about this country. Another reason they take their long, painstaking journey to the U.S. is because of education. Countless third world countries are often plagued by disease, famine, and armed conflicts and don't have the materials or money to build schools. So they turn to the U.S. as a safe haven for a better future. These people would leave their past behind to live the American dream. The sad part about this so-called American dream is that we try to keep these people out. Once they cross that border, they are at risk of being arrested, even deported back where they came from. Why do we do this, you ask? Let me tell you. In 1921, Congress passed the National Origins Quota System. It assigned a quota to each nationality. That's basically putting a limit on people. And that's just not right. When these people are deported, it breaks their hearts. It breaks my heart. I know from experience, seeing a family member taken from you for trying to make a better future. It pains me to see such a glorious nation carry out a cruel and awful act. Do you think that's the American way? No, didn't think so. Why do we do this? Why do we convict them of these so-called crimes? We owe our most sincere thanks to these brave people. So when people ask me, what would you tell an immigrant coming to the U.S.? Well, all I can say is, you built this country, raised our economy, and inspired millions of people to never be afraid of a new beginning. You will always be one step ahead of greatness. Oh yeah, and like New York, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Thank you.
Hello, judges, parents, teachers, and fellow contestants. My name is Brianna Lucio, and what does liberty mean to me? To me, liberty is more than just one thing. It's a choice to live our lives the way we want to. It's a piece of distant heritage within us all. It is what unites us, yet makes us different. It is our home, family, and freedom. America's liberty was established early on in its history. Its founders, the colonists, fought long and hard to gain their freedom from Great Britain. They united to not only make a better life for themselves, but for the future generations to come. A life without unfair taxation and focused on common welfare. As time went on, we pushed back past segregation and judgment to allow our freedoms to all people. Whether we are of religion, different race, or gender, we have the rights and choice of our freedoms. In some way, liberty has found its way into our histories. Whether it be that our roots lead to the beginning of America itself, or to the immigrants of other countries that seek the benefits of the New World. Somehow, somewhere, in our past, in our blood, someone has fought for your liberty. They won you the right to not only survive in this world, but thrive. Even when they're gone, they live in every breath and every heartbeat we take. We are the ancestors of tomorrow, and that is why we must fight and protect our liberty. We have to teach our children to show respect and support to those who risk their lives just so we can live ours. We have to show them the sacrifices that their forefathers made for their freedom. Some say liberty has nothing to do with our lives or heritage. But I say it has everything to do with it. Together, we can work to protect our liberty for not only a better today, but for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
No matter how much it hurts, how dark it gets, or how hard you fall, you are never out of the fight. These words were given by a brave, courageous man named Marcus Luttrell, also known as the Lone Survivor. Good morning. Marcus's story, the story of Operation Red Wings, sparked a beacon of faith and hope, which inspired me to tell this odyssey of his everlasting bravery and courage. We may hurt, we may face dark moments, and in hard times, we may fall. Marcus has lived at the very depths of these words, and not only felt pain, but the joys of life and the sacrifice of what it means to be a patriot. It is one thing to serve your own country, but to serve another is a true act of patriotism. Marcus did both. Marcus and his SEAL team of 4 were in Afghanistan as a part of Operation Red Wings. During their mission, Marcus and his team were met with a crucial decision when they came across a group of goat herders. Should they kill them and ensure their mission, or let them go and risk the Taliban coming to kill the team? They chose to let them go. Within 2 hours, they were ambushed and pursued. Their decision ultimately resulted in a deadly battle. No matter the pain Marcus felt, he carried on, fought, and continued to fight for his life. No matter how much he hurt, he never gave up. He never quit fighting. The battle was brutal. The team was horrifically outnumbered. The vicious battle ultimately cost 3 of the 4 members their lives. Although injured with a broken back and numerous shrapnel fragments in his body, Marcus was the only survivor. No matter how hard he fell, he continued to fight for his country, for the peaceful countrymen of Afghanistan, and his fallen brothers in arms. Marcus was then found by local villagers, whom at first he thought were some of the men in pursuit of him. These villagers took in Marcus, helped him to heal, and protected him from the radical forces he was battling. These people didn't even know Marcus, yet all risked and some even lost their lives. The villagers had taken oath to their tribe's ethnic Pashtun tradition. This ancient code obliged the Pashtuns to give aid and protection to anyone in need. One villager stated, "We did not rescue Marcus for the money or privileges, but solely to help." Taken in by strangers with no loyalty to his country, Marcus was saved, and these brave people themselves became patriots. They not only fought to serve their country and their way of life, they fought to serve and protect another, a true act of patriotism. Marcus has said that a part of him died that day, that his fellow soldiers were a part of him, and when they died, a part of him died as well. That was Marcus's sacrifice. That is what marked him and those who died that day as patriots. They were willing to lay down their lives for their country and for their fellow man. They are patriots. Even in the darkest moments, Marcus knew what it was to serve with his brothers and what it is to be willing to sacrifice yourself and those you love because you honor what they stood and fought for. It was stated by Marcus that men of special forces had other options in their lives, easier paths, but they took the hardest path. They took the one of the supreme patriot, the one that may require them to lay down their lives for the United States of America. No matter how much it hurts, how dark it gets, or how hard you fall, you are never out of the fight. The devotion to protect and the willingness to sacrifice one's own blood to give to the people and country you serve above yourself is one of the most patriotic acts one can perform. We meet patriots of all kinds every day, willing to stop at nothing, even die for what they believe. Now I ask you, do you believe in something so much that you are willing to die for it? What makes you a patriot? Could you be a supreme patriot? Thank you.
Greetings, fellow contestants, guests, and judges. I want you to do me a favor and close your eyes. Picture yourself sitting on your doorstep, gazing out into a continuous pile of filth called the United States. You see shots being fired at innocent bystanders, and our nation's world has been shattered. A place where love and acceptance are words never spoken. A place where future generations don't exist. Now, open your eyes. It's definitely a difficult thing to imagine. As brilliant writer Elmer Davis once stated, this nation will remain the land of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave. A few simple words can turn into an incredibly powerful concept. But how did we do this? Think of it as a tree. The roots that hold us into the ground, the trunk that keeps us strong, and the leaves that grow from our efforts. The growing process starts with the roots. The roots stand for the bravery and confidence we held during our time of containment. We were being overruled by Great Britain when we began sprouting in confidence.
Like us, the roots are strong. But without watering, the tree will always die. We watered our roots by throwing Britain's tea into the Boston Harbor. Our country decided that we wanted to stand alone and be one nation and not stand for King George's oppression and taxation. The roots of the tree is where our confidence and urge for freedom began. Eventually, the trunk of the tree started sprouting. Now, tell me, what do you think about when you hear the words, trunk of a tree? If you said strength and stability, I agree. Just because we did something unforgettable and out of nowhere didn't mean we were going to stop there. We continued to stand for what we wanted and believed in, our freedom. America declared war against the power-hungry Great Britain. We fought our hearts out and won. Just the smallest amount of determination came together and formed something with an incredible outcome. We, the United States of America, were becoming one united nation. Last but not least, the leaves. The leaves stand for the appearance and development of our freedom. The leaves are what make this country beautiful. Our unstoppable determination made our leaves blossom. And our tree looks amazing. Branches of every size, leaves of every color and shape. Our tree allows us to accept every leaf, no matter what they look like. We are a tree, a gorgeous tree, with branches that continue to grow and a variety of leaves that continue to blossom. If we work as one country, one nation, even one family, our tree will become extraordinary. Our men and women gave all of their bravery, strength, and courage, and we accomplished what we wanted most, freedom. We wanted to be free more than anything, and this is why America's tree hasn't died. Our nation worked extremely hard, and you know what? We were brave. Brave. There's that word again. Is it a newborn baby girl whose father won't return? Is it a mother who finds out her son isn't coming home? Every single example I just gave you screams bravery. If you don't think that's brave, then you should think again. Don't give up on being brave. Don't let our leaves fall. I want you to think about how determined we were while we were on the bottom. We don't want to be overruled again. I just want you to know how lucky we are to live in such a country. In the words of Elmer Davis, we will continue to be the land of the free. We will always be the home of the brave. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome. To be faithful to one's country and people is not a task of simplicity. It's not often that you wake up one day and recite to yourself that today you're going to be a hero. Today you're going to leave your mark on the world. George William Curtis once said, "A man's country is not a certain area of land, of mountains, rivers, and woods, but it is a principle. And patriotism is loyalty to that principle." Over the decades, several Americans, both men and women, have displayed immense devotion towards our country. And I believe that Jeremy Glick, a 9/11 hero, and Naval Officer Michael A. Mansour epitomized George William Curtis's words and bring them to justice. Ordinary citizens have earned the title hero in ways that maybe even themselves would not have predicted. Jeremy Glick was one of those citizens. On the morning of September 11, 2001, Jeremy boarded United Flight 93, along with about 44 other passengers, only 4 of which who knew the sickening fate of everyone who entered the plane that morning. It was the intent of these 4 individuals to hijack the plane and crash it into our nation's capital. Jeremy and many other passengers formulated an idea to take a course of actions and refused to allow these men to finish their job of destruction. With the help of his peers, Mr. Glick and the others succeeded at redirecting the path of the plane, saving hundreds of lives. United Flight 93 crashed into a field in Pennsylvania, and there were no survivors. But had it not been for the heroism of those very passengers, so many more could have perished. And although these acts were not premeditated, keep in mind that there are others who consciously make the choice to protect and serve. Most heroes don't wake up knowing that this is going to be their destiny, except for those who serve in our military. Michael A. Mansour is a perfect example of what it was to readily accept the call for service and to put your life at risk for your country. In 2001, Mike enlisted in the Navy at the age of 19. He trained hard for 3 years, and his persistence led him to success. By September of 2004, Mike earned the right to wear the Navy SEAL Trident. 2 years later, his infantry unit was stationed in Iraq. On September 29, 2006, Mike and 2 crewmates took position on the outcropping of a rooftop when an insurgent grenade bounced off of Mike's chest and onto the roof. He had 2 options: save himself and make a swift escape, or save the other 2 present SEALs. For Mike, this was no choice at all, and in the end, he threw himself onto the grenade, absorbing the explosion with his body. Due to his great bravery and sacrifice, Mr. Mansour was recognized as the 4th Medal of Honor recipient of the War on Terror. Time will not expel his legacy of courage and valor. In my opinion, both Michael A. Mansour and Jeremy Glick have proven patriotic loyalty. Reflecting back onto George Curtis's quote of patriotism and loyalty, I felt that these 2 individuals best represented the contrast and variation of patriotic heroes. Holding your chin high and standing beside your brothers and sisters till the very last second is one of the most courageous things you could do. In conclusion, Jeremy Glick and Michael A. Mansour hold a direct correlation to George William Curtis's quote: "A man's country is not a certain area of land, of mountains, rivers, and woods, but it is a principle, and patriotism is loyalty to that principle." Their stories withhold acts of immeasurable sacrifice and inspire others like you and I to stand united. My fellow Americans, I want you all to ask yourself, not what your country may do for you, but what you may do for your country. Thank you.
Elmer Davis once said, "This nation will remain the land of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave." This quote could accurately describe our military, those courageous men and women serving our country and showing extreme bravery to keep this land free. But today, I would like to focus on everyday citizens who have had a tremendous impact on the lives of the American people. 3 individuals who come to my mind when I think of this quote are Claudette Colvin, William Rodriguez, and Pat Tillman. Each of these patriotic people have shown courage in a way that embodies what I think America is and should be. Claudette Colvin, an African-American girl, was arrested when she was 15 years old for a reason parallel to the story of Rosa Parks. The day of her arrest, on March 2nd, 1955, Colvin's high school class had just finished learning about the injustices of the Jim Crow laws. With this fresh in her mind, she took her usual bus ride home. The bus driver ordered Colvin to give up her seat for a white man, but she refused, saying that it was her constitutional right. Soon, 2 officers arrested her, and she was thrown into jail. After being bailed out of prison by her minister, Colvin challenged this segregation law in court. Can you imagine being as young as we are now and having to stand up for what you believe in and defend your rights? Though the story of Claudette Colvin is relatively unknown, I believe that her bravery could stand side by side with others such as Rosa Parks.
Colvin was a black teenager standing up for her rights against segregation. Another person I believe is an example of real bravery and patriotism is William Rodriquez. Rodriquez was employed as a maintenance worker in the World Trade Center in New York City. On September 11, 2001, he rescued 15 people from the North Tower after the terrorist attack. Because Rodriquez was the only person with the master key to the North Tower, he led firefighters up stairwells, unlocking doors for them, all while aiding in the escape of hundreds of people. After getting out the first time, this brave man re-entered the towers 3 additional times to ensure the well-being of as many people as he could. Rodriquez was said to be the last person to safely exit the North Tower, surviving the collapse of the building by hiding under a fire truck. After receiving brief medical attention, this brave man was back at Ground Zero, aiding and assisting as a volunteer to other injured citizens. Because of this terrible event, Rodriquez lost his 19-year employment, but still works every day to help those affected by 9/11, despite being unemployed and homeless for a period of time. Think to yourself for a moment. Would you have had the courage to do what William Rodriquez did? Selflessly put your life on the line to ensure the well-being of people you don't even know. I know I certainly couldn't have. And that's why I believe William Rodriquez is a great example of an everyday citizen making brave and patriotic decisions that ultimately would affect our country. The last person who, in my opinion, is an ideal example of bravery and patriotism is Pat Tillman. Tillman excelled at football at Leland High School and led his team to the Central Coast Division I football championship. He got a scholarship to Arizona State University and helped his team there achieve an undefeated season and make it to the 1997 Rose Bowl. He was also nominated as the MVP for that year. In the 1998 NFL Draft, he was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. Tillman set a team record while on the Cardinals for the greatest number of tackles in 2000 and had an overall very successful football career. After the event on September 11, 2001, however, Tillman felt inspired to leave behind his $3.6 million 3-year contract to serve our country in Afghanistan. If that doesn't scream patriotism, I don't know what does. Unfortunately, on April 22, 2004, this brave man was killed in action. Tillman earned the Purple Heart Award and Silver Star medals while in the military and is now in the College Football Hall of Fame. What Tillman did for our country truly embodies the definition of patriotism. As we examine the actions of each of these individuals, we can see that the common virtue between them was sacrifice. Each one gave up something for a higher cause in support of our country. And isn't that the true definition of bravery? For it is people like Claudette Colvin, William Rodriquez, and Pat Tillman who truly make our nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you.
Envision yourself being held down by chains, maybe not only physically, but mentally, because you couldn't express your thoughts that contradicted those of the country's leader in that day. Good morning, judges, peers, and parents. When Patrick Henry stated, "Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God, I know not the course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death." These are the words of a true patriot, and I personally believe that if Americans before were not brave enough to fight for our rights, we would not have the same opportunities that we have today. There are many individuals who have fought greatly to shape the rights that we have as a nation today. For example, Martin Luther King Jr. fought a difficult battle to create and protect the rights of African Americans. Dr. King truly resembles what Patrick Henry meant when he stated, "Give me liberty or give me death." He pushed for the liberty of African Americans until he was tragically assassinated. Elizabeth Cady Stanton is another patriot who led the women's rights movement early on. She demanded that females be treated equally and have the same rights and opportunities as their fellow men. Furthermore, Helen Keller made it possible for those with disabilities to be treated with dignity and respect among their peers. These three brave Americans gave citizens of all races endless opportunities that are not necessarily granted in other countries. My parents were drawn to these wonderful opportunities when they lived in a communist country. My mother and father wanted an education for their children that would provide them with jobs on the career path that they were passionate about. I find a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that so little emphasis was placed upon education in Romania, but in America is what we strive for as adolescents. Just as many other immigrants, my mother and father were searching for religious freedom. In Romania at the time, if you were caught going to church, in certain cases you would be punished. These punishments ranged from fines to even imprisonment. It's quite ludicrous to me that I can worship whomever I please, but others may be dying at just the thought of it. My parents were also searching for a better standard of living because in Romania there was so little available to them. Food was scarce, fighting off the wintry colds was a losing battle, and money was hard to come by. In comparison to America, these three things are so easy for us to overcome. My parents sacrificed their lives to escape the communist regimes in hopes that my siblings and I would have the opportunities they had long searched for and only dreamed of retaining. Patrick Henry's wise words have stood the test of time by still being relevant to this very day. My parents sacrificed their very lives to make it to the land of opportunity and try their hand at a new life. It was difficult, of course, but they do not regret the risk they took because liberty was too sweet to pass up. They broke from the chains of communism so that I wouldn't have to experience it myself. I now have the freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and the right to petition, unlike my ancestors. I believe my children and grandchildren deserve, no, have a right to these opportunities. America is built on the idea of freedom and bravery. In order to make our future as bright as our present and past, we need to have the same courage we've had until this point. In other words, we need to be America the brave to continue being America the free. America is a patriotic country because of our dedication to standing up for our country and what we, the people, believe is right. Now I shall ask you to stand by me with that dedication, continuing to fight for our liberty to stand. And until the day we perish, to have the incredible words of Patrick Henry in our hearts. Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not the course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Thank you for your time.
America has come a long way as a country. From the time the Pilgrims sailed across the Atlantic Ocean in the Mayflower to the terrorist attacks of 9/11. We have joyed in the joyful times and mourned in the sad times. In times of distress, we've always looked to patriotic icons for the welfare and happiness of America, whether it be the Declaration of Independence or the Star-Spangled Banner. There is one, however, that is frequently overlooked and is said, well, for some of us, at the beginning of each school days. Ladies and gentlemen, judges, my name is Luke Ashcroft, and I speak of the Pledge of Allegiance. This 31-word pledge would shape the hearts of American citizens for over 100 years, but sadly, nowadays, people wish to end the use of it. Why? Mainly because of two words, under God. I believe we should continue to say the Pledge of Allegiance, especially with under God in it, because of the religious intentions of our founding fathers and religious principles implied with under God. Now, the Pledge of Allegiance was originally made in the 1890s, an age of industrialization, but sadly a time of depression, for many still suffered from the negative effects of the Civil War. Many families struggled financially and had trouble believing, interpreting, and even living the American dream. Something had to be done. Less and less people found time to vote, and the level of engagement in political affairs dropped. The Pledge of Allegiance was made to impart some level of patriotism to the people, and it worked. It wasn't until the Cold War, another challenging time in America's history, that the two additional words, under God, were added. Those two words were added to distinguish America from communist countries who take away and despise certain religions. The country felt it was necessary to invoke those two words at the time when many suffered under communism. They have the greatest impact for me and really for the world. Now, America is inherently a country based on religion. In fact, that is the reason why people moved here in the first place, isn't it? Freedom of religion. Now, this also means freedom of choosing whether or not to worship. There are always those who feel the need to practice religion is not necessary. That is their choice. I respect that. But that does not mean that a fraction of the people and their influence decide whether we say the Pledge of Allegiance. That does not change the fact that America is simply a country based on religion. Our founding fathers intended it that way. They knew religious principles is a key part in a great government. George Washington even said, quote, "Religion and morality are the essential pillars of civil society," end quote. America is spotted with churches, temples, synagogues, and places of worship. Under God does not mean everyone in America is religious, or even has to be. It simply means that we are a country based on religious principles. Now, believe it or not, religious principles really do help make America a safer place. In fact, a Harvard professor, Clayton Christensen, spoke of an encounter he had with a Chinese communist economist friend. The friend spoke of a realization he had on how our democratic government works. He said, quote, "In America, the vast proportion of people obey the laws because God will hold you accountable. Democracy works because most people, most of the time, voluntarily obey the laws. Americans police themselves knowing God is their final judge," end quote. Most people in America have high moral standards and live to a code, so to speak. They self-correct when doing the wrong thing. The pledge indirectly encourages this, that Americans are watched by God, or under God. Those two words bear testimony that the freedom of religion is necessary for America's success to ensure liberty and justice for all. Though the Pledge of Allegiance may seem simple, it can really be interpreted in many ways. It was written to inspire the minds of American citizens, bring peace of mind to those who need it, and bring unity to a country, both in times of stress as well as success. America was made to be successful and is bound to do so. But we need to continue to say the Pledge of Allegiance. How should we say it? Part humble, part proud. As we recite the Pledge of Allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You, and yes, you, will help make America the country our founding fathers intended it to be. Thank you.